So do you guys want to listen to some deathcore? Like an hour of it? You want to talk about ambitious. You want to talk about something that could either work brilliantly in their favor or something that could easily come back and bite them on the ass. Chelsea Grin, Ashes to Ashes, nearly 60-minute long album, 15 tracks in length. Now, we've talked about Chelsea Grin on this channel before. We talked about Evolve, the EP that came out just a couple of years ago. We've talked about the fact that Jason Richardson, formerly of Born of Osiris, is now in the band. This is all old news. It's time to turn the page. It's time to talk about the new record, the full length. One that is spanning nearly an hour, and one that certainly has a lot riding on it. You see, Chelsea Grin have definitely ramped up the metal, I guess, elite lists, especially for the youth and those that really enjoy the deathcore subgenre. And Evolve was one that was met with some mixed reaction, considering they were able to throw in a little bit of ultra-progressive ideas in there, along with their traditional style. Now, with Ashes to Ashes, that's something that's present perhaps not within the same realm or element, but one that also is filtering in some gent as well. Don't believe me? Listen to the record. It's definitely something that you hear in a Periphery record, maybe a Tesseract record, or definitely a Meshuggah record, is going to pop up from here and there. But whenever it comes to subgenres and sub-subgenres, it's really not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the music. The music here on this is certainly one that old school fans of Chelsea Grin will certainly respect, understand, and definitely enjoy. This is definitely an album that the minute that they hear it's going to be an hour-long affair should give them a lot of excitement. It should definitely build a lot of anticipation for them. Considering the previous two records, neither of them have clocked the 40-minute mark, so most of them have been very consistent and very wham-bam, thank you sir or ma'am in their status. It's something where none of the albums really overstayed their welcome, so it was something where if it wasn't really for you, if you didn't enjoy it all that much, it was at least something that, well, you could listen to the whole thing and, render that opinion, and that could be it. But with 60 minutes, you really have to hold the attention of your audience a hell of a lot more. And it's weird for me to think that I'm saying this, but I am going to say it. Chelsea Grin did that. Chelsea Grin did that. The band opted with this album to write with a little bit more of a quote-unquote positive light. Songs that are just about real life, about real demons, about alcoholism, about drugs, about things like that, with a bit of a positive spin. So, this is kind of an interesting idea. Whenever you consider the idea of Ashes to Ashes, there's an immediate thought of death, considering the old saying, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And this is something that is present on this album, because right in the middle of it, we have Ashes, and then we have Ellipsis to Ashes as the next track, both of them being instrumental. One of them being a softer number, with the second one being a full band fury. Two very powerful tracks, to be perfectly honest. Dust to Dust closes out the album with the same ellipsis at the end, and certainly closes out an album that's filled with a lot of interesting moments. This is one where the deathcore style for Chelsea Grin can sometimes become a bit tiring as you listen to all of it. This is something where the breakdowns that occur, maybe not song by song, but at least once every two, can certainly seem a bit out of place at times, or can definitely come off as a bit overabundant. Something where you look at it and say, well, okay, I can understand it being perhaps in 2 or 3. Maybe since this is a 15-track album, maybe 5 or 6. But, wow, it definitely feels like this is something that's present in maybe 11 or 12 of the 15 tracks. And, of course, the instrumentals aren't going to have them, so that leaves, like, one that doesn't have it. Well, it's probably not the case. It's just, artificial inflation. However, it was something that was noted. And it's something that kind of kills the momentum a little bit. Especially considering composition-wise, these are songs that are pretty well tailored. The craft on this is definitely been aided by the additions that they've made to their roster. And the fact that they have such a wide array or a wide cast of guitar players that definitely have a lot of skill certainly aids their benefit with this. It's something that helps them build a little bit of a really sound song, and something that definitely helps the flow of this continue to, very nicely render itself and continue onward. This is actually a 15-track album that goes together very nicely. It's definitely one that they worked very hard on, so that's certainly a positive light. Nothing about this feels jaunty. Nothing feels very disjointed or, just random. This is instead something that really breathes the air of focus. Now, overall, this is certainly a disc that I think the ambition was an idea that was fairly decent. However, it very nearly damned them. Near the end of this record, I definitely started to get a little bit restless, get a little bit listless, kind of just want it to be over with. I think that 60 minutes for a band like Chelsea Grin may be just a little bit too much. And it's not so much that they don't have the capability to really, shake things up enough in order to really command the attention of an audience for 60 minutes. I feel it's something, though, that there are going to be choice audiences that are going to eat this up easily. It's going to be easily digestible, a meal that will actually provide them with more than just that full feeling, but will instead make them feel like they don't need to eat for the remainder of the day. I don't feel that there are going to be many converts based on this record because of its length. I feel that the conversion factor, the people that maybe didn't listen to or didn't like Chelsea Grin before, now liking them, will be based around the musicianship, and it'll be based around listening to, a couple of songs and really, really digging them. Remember the Discovery by Born of Osiris? Remember how well that album flowed together and how it was one that really didn't feel its length? The one negative about this album from Chelsea Grin is that it definitely feels all of its length. This is one that doesn't really help you forget about the passage of time. It's instead one that kind of crawls right along with it. But that crawl is not one that's been wasted. The crawl is not one that is really being toiled through or tormented through. It's instead one that's a very pleasing experience, and it's really just based around the fact that I think that the songwriting by this band has certainly matured a good bit. I actually kind of dig the fact that they were able to allude a lot of these songs toward reality and wrote a little bit about, real life, as opposed to doing what some of the other members of the subgenre of deathcore or, whatever do, and just trying to sound as, brutal as possible for no good goddamn reason. These are instead songs that kind of feel like they have layers and textures to it. And that's definitely a really nice reinforcement package, something that certainly aids this album in the long run. Overall, I feel that this is a disc that, people that don't necessarily like Chelsea Grin will listen to, and they'll actually find something on here that they'll be preferential toward, something that they enjoy. I know a lot of people will probably listen to this and dig it because of Jason Richardson, especially those that really praise the Discovery by Born of Osiris. However, that really shouldn't be the real meaning behind this. This is instead one that should really be focused as an independent venture, mainly because it really is. The band themselves feel and seem and sound very, very tight. Like, they've definitely taken the 2 years ever since the Evolve EP and the 2 years since the major shakeup in the lineup to really get to know one another and really understand collectively what they want to accomplish musically. And that vision certainly is translated into this disc, and certainly one that, well, as I've said many times throughout this, is an ambitious one. This is a project that easily could make or break this band, and longtime fans may actually even be in that category of finding it to be a bit too much, a bit too long, one that they can't enjoy just in one sitting because, got other shit to do. But I really think that those that are really, really focused on giving this a fair listen, and one that's willing to sit down and, engage themselves throughout the full process, are going to find something pretty nice here. They're going to find something that they really enjoy. The translation point for this is going to be live. I'm thinking that if they do an hour-long set, there's a good chance that they're going to hear, a lot of stuff from this album. Probably, principally this album from that set. Because the songs on here definitely have a kick-ass metal to them. I enjoy the fact that these songs each feel very individualistic, even though they definitely borrow some of their own concepts with one another very often. So it's something that definitely feels a bit formulaic, but it's also chaotic. So in that regard, you're just not quite sure when some of those borrowed concepts are going to show up. The time signature change, the little breakage of gent to the introduction of it to go along with the slight introduction of a progression or a progressive idea. I mean, it's all just part of the building process. It's something that actually makes the album cleverly unique, but at the same time, you can definitely still tell what it is. This is an album that I would probably give a strong 77 out of 100 to, and the reason for this being is that for all of its real positive ideas, the flaw is the fact, actually, I feel that it could have gone without 2 or 3 songs. Sure, this is something where I just stated that the 60 minutes actually kind of crawl along with the time, but everything feels like it's, you know, in its place. But I still think that maybe it's just a little bit too much. This is something that doesn't have that perfect balance. This is instead one that seems to be tipped a little bit toward the high side. With that said, though, it's still an album that's worth exploring. It's definitely an album that's still worth picking up. And even if you're not necessarily a fan of this band, this would be the album that I would suggest maybe giving a shot, because there's a lot of differentiation here. There's creativity here, and there's variety here. So it really has the three major things that you should be looking for whenever it comes to maybe a band that you were never all that, you know, tasteful for, or didn't like all that much. Things that may actually help you, you know, be more ambitious to sample their stuff in the future. I think that longtime fans of Chelsea Grin are going to really enjoy this album. In fact, I think that a lot of them may consider it to be one of their magnum opuses whenever all is said and done, whenever we're talking about this band retrospectively in 20 years. Principally, not just because it has that epic feel because of its length, but because it just has that overall Discovery-like metal to it, where it really feels just as big as it really is. And that's something that helps this album a lot. All of those moments where you maybe feel that the length is starting to get to you, and it will happen. An idea will come up. Maybe, you know, a minute after you say that, and all of a sudden you'll kind of be back down to earth and not thinking that as much. But that being said, with that sort of confusing idea there, that's the reason why it's a 77. No hate, no excessive love, but an album that should be sampled and tried. One that should certainly get its fair chance. What did you guys think about Ashes to Ashes by the Chelsea Grin? Or just Chelsea Grin. What are some of your favorite songs? Do you guys like this band? Or are you not really... whatever? Let me know in the comments. We'll talk to you guys next time. What will it be next that we speak about? Only one way to find out. Subscribe. Like this stuff. It's the only way you'll know. So do it.